and welcome to the 48th Annual AAKP National Patient Meeting, Transforming American Kidney Health, Patients Take the Lead. My name is Erin, and I am AAKP's Deputy Director. In October of this year, I look forward to celebrating 20 years of working with kidney patients to bring their voices and perspectives to the table when government agencies, industry, and allied partners are working towards improvements in kidney care. I have had the absolute honor of being part of AAKP for over 6 years. And during that time, I've been able to work closely with AAKP's Executive Director and Executive Board leadership to stand up AAKP's Center for Patient Engagement and Advocacy and Center for Patient Research and Education. These centers were founded to serve as a rapid fulfillment hub for requests for kidney patient experts originating from government, academia, medical device manufacturers, and the pharmaceutical industry. Some of these requests include patient representation on technical expert panels, advisory boards, as well as various research and clinical trial initiatives. Since 2020, AAKP has been dedicated to bringing patients a variety of training sessions that provide practical skills they can use to make an impact. And to date, AAKP has over a dozen skills training sessions that support the activities and initiatives under our Center for Patient Engagement and Advocacy and our Center for Patient Research and Education, including those opportunities I just mentioned. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce a new advocacy and engagement training session titled The High Value of Your Lived Experiences: Why Researchers Want and Need Patient Involvement. It's an honor for me to introduce this session, as I have worked closely with our session speakers on 2 clinical trial initiatives in the areas of diabetic and non-diabetic chronic kidney disease. They are joining us today to share their unique perspectives on just how impactful patient insights and lived experiences can be on the development, design, and deployment of research and clinical trials. Our first speaker is Shawn Paladini with Bayer Pharmaceuticals. Shawn has over 25 years of clinical trial management experience in phases 1 through 3 clinical research trials, including over-the-counter consumer care products. His therapeutic areas of study have included neurology, oncology, cardiology, nephrology, dermatology, and more. Shawn was a recent speaker at the National Institutes of Health, National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases workshop on optimizing clinical trials in chronic disease. Shawn, I'm pleased to turn things over to you.
I'd like to thank Erin and the AAKP for inviting me to speak at the 48th Annual National Patient Patient Meeting. My name is Shawn, and today I'm going to give a little insight into lessons from the industry. First, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to speak to all of you today. I think there's a lot that can be learned and a lot to be considered when conducting clinical trials. I can say that in just the short 20-something years I've been overseeing clinical trials, it's dizzying to think of all the innovations and changes I've seen come and go. I'm going to speak to some key factors that I've learned along the way that can lead to successful clinical trials, some key factors that I feel have proven to be important things to consider, and hopefully give some pointers to think about when prepping for the next clinical trial you may be a part of conducting. And then lastly, I'm going to finish up with a few slides on retention and the importance of the patient-centric mindset. So first, a little bit of background about me. My name is Shawn Paladini. I currently work as a clinical trial manager for Bayer Pharmaceuticals. I have over 25 years of industry experience, the bulk of which has been managing multiple phases of trials in the clinical research arena. I've worked at several different pharma companies along the way, as well as in multiple therapeutic areas of research. So I'd like to start things off with just a couple of facts. Did you know that approximately 80% of all clinical trials conducted fail to meet their enrollment timelines? I can tell you firsthand that this is a very accurate statement. Most trials I've worked on in my career have either not met enrollment or have needed enrollment timelines to be pushed out to allow for additional recruitment efforts. Also, approximately 1/3 of all phase 3 studies terminate due to failed enrollment. So what does this tell us? It tells us there's a lot of room for improvement in how we prep for and conduct clinical trials. Clearly defined study objectives. How well have you thought out your protocol and feasibility? Is there a concise clinical development plan in place? A well thought out clinical development plan and/or study outline that's developed early on in the planning could be a critical first step towards success of the trial and should include information and details on key elements of the protocol, as well as buy-in and input from various scientific experts. Logistical and pragmatic strategies should be considered too. Will utilizing things like a DCT, decentralized trials, help support enrollment and retention? What clinical devices and outcome assessments will be used, and why will you use them? There should be solid rationale for every considered component of a trial, because when the rubber hits the road and that protocol is fire tested in a clinic, the weak links will break. Research questions and endpoints. What is the single most primary objective of the study, and how will the primary endpoint support that objective? It's essential to have well-defined primary outcome measures and secondary endpoints to ensure the focus of your trial and that it'll evaluate and support the efficacy and safety of the investigational product accurately. A robust study design. How well thought out is the design of your study? Does it take into consideration the defined population? Has it been developed in a way that minimizes bias and other confounding factors? Have real-world costs and logistics been considered? Have enrollment projections been made? And what are they based on? Will you have enough time? What if you need more time? What if you need more money? Have you factored in investigator insight? How about expert insight? Do you have a retention plan? Randomized controlled trials are generally considered the gold standard for assessing efficacy, and sample size calculation is a critical step in the study design. Sample size calculations can ensure that the trial is adequately powered, is as cost-effective as it can be, and it's ethically justified. Furthermore, it could enhance the precision and reliability of the study results. Additionally, utilizing factors such as randomization, blinding, and a control group could also enhance the validity of the results. Well thought out and developed inclusion and exclusion criteria. What are the criteria you're focusing on to enroll participants into your trial? In my experience, this is always the first real glimpse into how difficult or easy this study is going to be to conduct. Criteria that appear to look good and make sense on paper may not always be what the reality of the in-clinic patient presents as. For example, something as simple as a 50-point difference, one way or another, in an inclusion-exclusion criteria lab could make or break getting the study fully enrolled on time. Not to get ahead of myself, but this is where critical investigator and/or expert insight should come into play in the development of the protocol criteria. Balancing the inclusion and exclusion criteria is crucial to selecting a representative sample that reflects real-world, key phrase there, real-world patient population. Properly powered statistics. So stats are definitely not my strong point, but I have been around long enough to know that you do not want to go through an entire clinical trial only to end up with a sample size not large enough or powerful enough to give any sort of clinically relevant findings. Again, this is where proper planning upfront is critical. A thorough power analysis during the study design phase should be done to determine the sample size required to detect meaningful differences between the intervention and control groups. For longer-term studies, extra consideration should be given for retention issues and overall potential subject loss. Full adherence to local and country regulations. Patient safety is, and always should be, the utmost importance when conducting any sort of trial involving human participants. Ethical considerations should always be made, and adherence to ethical guidelines and regulatory requirements when conducting clinical trials should be followed. An IRB-approved informed consent from participants should always be collected, and they should always contain elements informing about the protection of their privacy and confidentiality, as well as ensuring the patients of their safety throughout the study. Comprehensive protocol development. It's critical to develop a detailed and comprehensive study protocol that outlines the trial's objectives, methodology, participant selection criteria, intervention details, outcome measures, and a statistical analysis plan. A well-structured protocol will help maintain consistency during the trial and provide guidance to investigators and study personnel. A poorly structured protocol can be a recipe for disaster. Some tools that I find extremely helpful in the development of a study protocol can be categorized into 4 major areas of insights. And this is sort of what I hinted at before, including insights from multiple areas. So the first area of insight is what I call investigator insight. And this should include direct feedback from high-performing study sites on specific areas of the study protocol. This insight is very important as they are the front line and see what is the real-world setting day in and day out in the clinical environment. Now, this naturally includes investigator feedback, but also extremely important is feedback from site coordinators and study nurses. The next area would be expert insight. Expert insight should be utilized to provide an unbiased view and review of the study concepts, and these are typically provided by key opinion leaders and subject matter experts. The next area of insight would be patient insight. Patient insight can give feedback on study aspects as they relate to the disease and complexities that may be involved in study participation from the eyes of the study patient. They're valuable in giving feedback on study design, patient needs, as well as burdens that the specific patient population may face. In the current trial that I'm managing now, I've used patient ambassadors and patient advocates, and they have been very beneficial aspects of our study team in terms of enrollment, trial awareness, and retention. If you take anything away from this, it would be not to underestimate the importance and value added by input from patient insight. It is very helpful. And then the final and fourth area of insight when developing a protocol would be data insight. Data insight experts, both internally and third-party vendors, can help more accurately guide and advise on the stats plan to be implemented in the study design. Add to that the use of previously collected data, as well as various modeling tools to complement and compare your protocol to other similar protocols in specific therapeutic areas. These can be used to help validate recruitment assumptions and randomization rates. A well-oiled data management and electronic data capture system. Effective data management incorporates and implements robust data management procedures, including standardized data collection tools, regular data quality checks, and secure storage. Using a well-tested EDC whenever possible can dramatically help streamline data collection, enhance overall data accuracy, and facilitates analysis. And your study coordinators at the sites will love it too. Quality monitoring. I've come to learn and appreciate just how critical to a study's success quality monitoring can be. Just like a well-written protocol, it could literally be the difference between a study site knocking your study out of the park and becoming a top performer, or putting your trial on the back burner and never giving it the time and attention it needs. Executing a clear monitoring plan can ensure compliance with the protocol, good clinical practice, and regulatory requirements. High-quality monitoring not only involves regularly monitored data collection, adverse event reporting, and protocol deviations, it also allows the study monitor to be present on-site and act as an advocate for the study and to keep the study at the forefront of the staff's attention. And finally, risk-based monitoring. Risk-based monitoring can be an entire presentation all unto itself, but making the use of a risk-based monitoring approach can allow the study sponsor to improve the efficacy, efficiency, quality, and success of the trial by optimizing resource allocations and enhancing the ability to detect and mitigate potential issues. So for those of you not completely aware of what risk-based monitoring is, it's basically measures taken to streamline and optimize error detection to help investigators more quickly and effectively mitigate risks or address errors before they compromise the quality of the trial. Some key components of risk-based monitoring are initial cross-functional risk assessment, ongoing cross-functional risk assessment, identifying quality tolerance limits, identifying key risk indicators, centralized monitoring of aggregated data, monitoring resource optimization, reduced source data verification, and reduced source document review. Regular communication, both internal and external. Communication is a factor that I find is becoming a bit of a dying art. That being regular, human-to-human collaboration and communication. As a trial manager, I make it a point to foster effective collaboration and communication among all the stakeholders on my trial. And this includes researchers, clinicians, participants, cross-functional teams, and regulatory bodies. Clear and transparent communication helps resolve issues promptly and ensures the smooth execution of the trial. If I don't know how to do something or I'm unclear of something being asked of me, I will flat out say, I don't know how to do that. But I'm darn sure we'll try to figure out how to get the issue resolved. I think verbal communication strengthens the bonds among team members both internally and externally, and has been somewhat of a little secret weapon of mine in an ever-growing digital chat and email world. Learning from your mistakes, or learning from previous trials. There's a saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Well, at Bayer, we have a value that we promote throughout the clinical development group, and that's to steal and share with pride. We learn from our mistakes and try not to repeat what hasn't worked in the past. So review and learn from previous clinical trials in the same or related fields. Understand the challenges faced by similar studies. Identify potential pitfalls, and incorporate those lessons learned into your trial design and execution. The flexibility to pivot when needed. Expect the unexpected. More often than not, what can go wrong will, especially if your protocol isn't watertight. Trials may encounter unexpected challenges or need adjustments during the study period. So study teams should always be prepared to adapt and modify the trial design or procedures while maintaining scientific rigor, ensuring participant safety, and adhering to regulatory requirements. And then finally, a quick turnaround of data. Timely data analysis and reporting. Now, this is not necessarily a factor to influence the success and failure of an ongoing trial, but it can set the precedent with sites and PIs for future trial success and participation. You should plan for timely data analysis and reporting of trial results. Establish predefined analysis plans to minimize the risk of bias and data-driven decisions. Investigators and sites that know they'll quickly see the fruits of their labor may be more apt to be high performers again for future studies. Quick turnaround of data is a relationship builder, and their patient population will appreciate it too. Okay, so the first several slides focused on recruitment. Now that you've got a study population, we're going to focus a couple slides here on retention. Adverse events are one of the primary reasons for participant dropout. That's why expected adverse events should be a focus of conversation during the consenting process, and then something that may need to be regularly communicated with participants throughout the trial. Again, nobody likes to be kept in the dark. If a participant knows beforehand what to possibly expect, it may be easier for them to tolerate if and when the situation arises. And if they know the study team is there for them to discuss these events, they may be more apt to remain in the trial for a little bit longer. If a temporary drug holiday is an option for the study, the subject may not be aware of this. So it's always important to discuss what other options other than discontinuation there are. Efficacy, or more importantly, perceived lack thereof. This can be a retention issue. That's why level setting expectations is very important. Oftentimes, if a patient doesn't feel like the investigational product is doing anything, they may feel less inclined to continue their participation. So share with them what they should possibly expect during the course of the trial. Or maybe even share with them their lab results and any trends you may be seeing as they progress throughout the trial to help keep them engaged. Remind them of the possibility that they may have also been randomized into the placebo group, but that the information from the placebo group is just as important to the overall data of the trial. And most importantly, the overall good the research that they are a critical part of is providing. Subject burden. A clinical trial could be a long-term commitment that can quickly turn to burden, especially for a patient population. A little logistical forethought can go a long way in keeping retention high in a trial. Setting up means to offset the burdens, such as providing travel to and from the clinic or travel reimbursements, should always be considered. Decentralized trials with in-home nurse calls and telehealth visits should also be explored. And above all, communication with the participant is key. A simple discussion with the participant about how they're feeling, how their situation is going as a participant in the trial. Is there anything they feel they need to help them remain a critical component to the success of the study? Focusing on the soft skills like these could often have the most important impact on the success of your trial. And finally, again, trial design. Thinking about how the design of your trial will affect the everyday life of the trial participants. Simple things such as grouping assessments into a single visit versus multiple assessments spread across multiple visits, or even hours upon hours in the clinic during the study visits, could literally mean the difference between your trial successfully retaining a higher percentage of the participants versus not being able to finish with enough subjects to even power usable results. So just to bring it home, this is where the use of patient insight can really show its value when taken into consideration during the design phase of your protocol. And that's it. So I would like to thank everyone for allowing me to present some of these key factors that I find important and helpful in the conduct and design of a clinical trial, as well as the retention and the importance of a patient-centric philosophy. Again, thank you, and have a great day.
Shawn, thank you for sharing your insights and best practices for involving patients in research. We'll now hear from Dammeon Marshall, AAKP Ambassador and chronic kidney disease patient. Dammeon is a social worker and has always expressed a genuine interest in helping people. As an advocate for education, health, and wellness, he volunteered with the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, helped raise his brothers and sisters, and developed community resources for public agencies. In these social ventures, Dammeon assisted children and families to improve behaviors, grades, and attitudes through positive dialogue that resulted in a greater understanding of their power and self-worth. While excelling in his studies, Dammeon was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease in 2012. He went through periods of grieving the mere thought of experiencing kidney failure. In October 2016, he made a conscious decision to push forward, and he re-enrolled in school to pursue a doctorate in social work at Capella University. In 2019, Dammeon discovered his purpose, and he became an AAKP Ambassador after attending his first National Patient Meeting. Throughout his work with AAKP, Dammeon has been a peer mentor in a recent AAKP PCORI-funded research project, presented during a number of AAKP webinars, and joined the Patient Advisory Council for an upcoming clinical trial. Earlier this year, Dammeon's dissertation was approved, and he became Dr. Dammeon Marshall. We congratulate him on his published work titled Positive Psychology Practices with African Americans, Managing Chronic Kidney Disease and Stress. We are so pleased to have Dammeon joining us for this session. I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, AAKP and Erin, for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here today. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Marshall, and today, briefly, I will discuss the importance of patient involvement in research, and hopefully we will understand or take away that our perceptions, experiences, or insights may or will disproportionately impact the kidney community on various levels. So here, we want to just really review and state the obvious. First, clinical trials are necessary. And so what I would like to do is to really break this down into different levels. All right. So clinical trials are necessary, which operates within the micro system. That includes government, companies, education systems that assist with maintaining the safety and well-being of us, you, and our ecosystem. That includes establishing social norms, policies, and laws to protect not just myself and you, but others. Next, we have clinical trials to help others, which operations within the microsystem. This includes myself, friends, family, colleagues, and our neighbors. That move us to the clinical trials can save loved ones. Absolutely. Again, we are operating within the micro level system. Next, we have clinical trial gives you access to new treatments and operates within the both the macro and the meso levels. And so here is when we have the state and local hospitals, clinics, communities, centers, and nonprofit agencies that provide access to treatment or may fund new treatments that are available. Lastly, we have clinical trials need participants from all backgrounds to participate. Again, this is something that we truly, truly need. And with that said, with this particular system, which is the micro system, it allows us to take advantage and build a village, which ensure that we have groundbreaking treatments that will potentially increase life expectancy and decrease physical and psychological challenges associated with chronic kidney disease. And so I want us to focus on U, the acronym U, which means yearn objectively to understand. Hesitation. That is really, really big among the minority community because the minority community have dealt with injustices and also have dealt with inequalities and inequities. And so, with that said, I want to talk about the past, the present, and the future. So, many of you all may know, have heard of the Tuskegee study. And in that study, Black men were dying from syphilis, and the doctors had the cure, but they would not necessarily treat these individuals. Now, this is a new one. I haven't heard this until I just recently read up on it. Henrietta Lacks. She was a Black female who had cancer. And so the scientists and drug companies used her cancer cells for decades without her permission. And we all know, and today, that is unethical. And so this brings us to the present. And so because of what happened in the past, created fear and concerns and lack of trust in the present. This is something a lot of us still dealing with. Because of that, we still have unpleasant and unfriendly encounters with our doctors, other medical professionals, scientists, and various health care companies. But we have something in place to counteract that. We have organizations like AAKP. This organization, and most of you already know, was designed to operate, engage, and advocate with all those previously mentioned systems, the macro, meso, and the micro systems that I just mentioned. And because of that, they focus on the micro level interventions, that is patient advocacy and engagement. And so as we focus on the present and know we have to deal with the past and the new things or new interventions that are more positive, we want to think about our future. And what does the future look like for us? And that future can be very promising. And so something that I applied in order to deal with some of the past and the present was to come up with a concept. And that concept was to divorce your fear and marry the opportunities. Okay, repeat after me. Divorce the fear and marry the opportunities. And that allows us to rebuild, reestablish, rediscover, reconnect, and most importantly, reiterate. So we want to understand that the past, okay, is the past, and we want to make sure we truly understand it so we don't repeat it. And the present, the best thing to do is just really accept what is, right? And the future gives us an opportunity to manage and control our future by making really good decisions. And so something else that I applied was to reflect on me. But right now, I want you to think about you, reflect on you. And so, again, remember I said you stand for yearn, objectively, and understand. And we're going to break this down. So yearn to assess. I want you to assess yourself. Just focus on yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions, right? And so all of that oftentimes falls under the subjective part of who you are and what you're doing. And once you deal with that and you get that out and you accept all of that, we have an opportunity to clear our mind and focus on the why. And when we focus on the why, we're able to go to the next step, which is process objectively, right? So objectively instead of subjectively, because subjectively, that's when we get our feelings and emotions all caught up in when we're trying to make a decisions. When we can put that to the side and focus on the objectives, the evidence, the facts, the experiences, it allows us to dig deep. But I don't want you to just to dig deep. I want you to dig even deeper. Okay. Because when you dig even deeper, you learn the essence of you, of who you are. And when you learn the essence of you, you have an opportunity to gain insight, knowledge. And when you have that knowledge, it takes us to the next step, which is it allows you to connect to yourself. And so we're going to connect to understanding who you are. What are your wants? What are your needs? What do you desire? And once you start building that confidence because you have went through these phases, you understand the connections, you're understanding who you are, you understand the journey, you are able to identify and define your purpose here on earth. And so I'm going to reiterate, it is all about you, my friend. It's all about you. We now understand who we are and what we're doing, and we walk in this journey regarding kidney disease, chronic kidney disease. And so now we can walk confidently in purpose, okay? Because we understand, we have identified. And so the beautiful thing about purpose, that purpose helps guide important decisions. Again, we're not operating out of feelings. We're not just operating out of emotions. We have a clear understanding. We have a clear path. And that fosters objective thinking. And when we are able to have objective thinking, we then start changing we then begin changing our perception, how we think, how we behave. We even manage our thought processes a little better. And so we then move into that behavior piece, right? And we understand that behavior influences behaviors, okay? Repeat after me. Behaviors influences behaviors. So other behaviors influence other behaviors. And so when people seeing you walk and talk, because your perception and your mindset have changed around research and being a valuable participant in different types of research, you are then being aware of your attitude and your perception, which increases others to become more involved in that research process. And that's what we would like to see. We want you to be confident that you're making the decisions to participate or increase or influence others to participate, because you may not necessarily qualify for a particular research that may come out. And so when you have an opportunity to be a part of anything, whether it's research or nonprofit, believe it or not, you are in your legacy. How many of us want to build our own legacy? Show of hands. Don't be shy. And so understand that legacies are cyclical, meaning that, it goes over and turns over in a circle around and around over and over again. And when you do that, you are creating a legacy that will live far beyond you. That means that you're connecting to others endlessly, right? Your purpose then becomes bigger than you. It is passed down to generations. Your kids and your grandkids know the investment of made regarding chronic kidney disease in the community, and you then contribute more and more valuable parts of yourself. And so when you contribute parts of yourself, right, that means you start deepening your understanding, your relationship with all of those around you. And so I say all of this, why? Okay? Why? Because involvement and participation is very important when it comes to research. Now, I'll be honest, it took me 7 years to go through this process. I hope it don't take you that long, but I finally got through the process when I realized that my voice mattered, others mattered, and whatever I do will impact someone else. I didn't want anyone else to have to go through some of the things that I have gone through. And so I got involved. So you may ask, Dr. Marshall, what does that look like? Listen, you have so many opportunities to be involved. You have organizational membership, being a part of AAKP or any nonprofit organization. You can volunteer, always helpful. You can inquire or register for clinical trials, right? And so, if you don't qualify for a clinical trial, you can always share the information with a friend, a colleague. You can share it with a neighbor, someone that you may know who's a part of the kidney community and may need resources. And then that will lead you to recruitment. Recruitment is always important. We need, or I ain't gonna say need, we would like to have a diverse population when it comes to kidney disease because so many of us, especially minorities, are impacted. And from my experience, I haven't seen a lot of minorities really kind of step up and invest a little bit more in clinical research. I'm telling you, it changed my life, and I'm sure it will change yours. And one last thing I want to mention is being a part of a panel. Okay. And this sometimes can go up to a macro level system because we need laws in order to govern some of the things that we do. But it can operate on a meso and a micro system as well because your voice matters. Okay. At AAKP, we like to say patient's choice, patient voice. Your voice matters when you're able to share your thoughts, your thoughts and your opinions and your experiences with healthcare systems and organizations regarding research. They get a better understanding how to build out that process to make it conducive and to make sure that it is customized to really treat and engage that particular population. Well, I hope you took something away from this presentation. I am Dr. Marshall. It was good to be here, and I want to wish you well. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marshall. With that, I again thank Shawn, Paladini, and Dammeon Marshall for their presentations. And thank you to everyone for joining this session.